Hello everyone and welcome to the comment section. The series where we're taking a look through all of your comments here on the channel and answering those questions you might have and going back and covering some things we might have missed. And today we have a whole bunch from Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 zombies. And there is some really cool ones in there, so let's get right into it. For our first comment today, we have one from Michigan Wolverine. I think you're missing the N in your name there, my guy. But anyway, he says that Glitching Queen looked up the exact crater that was used for inspiration for the Nuketown crater, and apparently it's actually one by Flagstaff, Arizona. While in the Learning Lore video that he commented on, I said that it was this one, the Sedan crater, that Nuketown was based off of, which is very conveniently inside of the Nevada desert, just next to Area 51. So it would make a lot of sense that a nuclear testing facility would be here. But here is the crater that I believe he's talking about, the Meteor Crater. Funny enough that it's just called the Meteor Crater. No special name going on here. But we can see it has a very box-like shape, actually. It's not very circular, and it's just sitting here in the middle of the desert of Arizona. Well, let's go ahead and hop on into Black Ops 2 real quick. Press on solo play and load up the Nuketown menu here. We get a decent view of the crater. And actually, multiple craters. There's the main one here that is in Nuketown Zombies, and there's two other ones that are off in the distance. And these two do not exist in the actual map of Nuketown, it's just completely flat desert out there. But they do exist in this menu screen, which right around the Sedan crater, there are multiple other craters from other nuclear tests, I'd imagine. And it is actually insane just how many craters there are out here in this desert. It is wild. But surrounding the immediate area of the Sedan crater, there is one to the north right here, one sort of to the northwest where my cursor is now, and another one to the southwest that's quite a bit larger. But credit to Glitching Queen herself for this next picture, because I'm not exactly sure how she got it. I tried to do it myself, but I wasn't able to pull it from the game files. This is that same menu screen for Nuketown, except blown up, and we can see the parts of it that we don't get to see in game, including the entirety of that Nuketown crater. We can now see those two craters in full that we were looking at before, and the one up top looks absolutely nothing like anything that we were looking at there in Sedan. But what is perhaps more important is the shape of the actual Nuketown crater that we see in game. And looking at it here in this menu screen, it doesn't look very circular. It sort of looks a little bit square. Very much so like the Meteor Crater that's in Arizona. The big difference between this Meteor Crater and the one in Sedan is this one you can actually go to, and you can hike on down and go right to the middle, which I imagine is exactly what the developers of Treyarch did. They most likely took some photos of this and then ended up putting it in game. Although I do want to say one thing, and that's here in game, it very much so looks to be a different shape than the one that's there in the menu screen. Instead of it being somewhat rectangular, this one is very much so rounded, and looks a lot more like the Sedan crater than it does the one that's in Arizona. So my current theory is this: the one that's in game is the Sedan crater, or at the very least it's modeled after it, and the one that is on the Nuketown menu screen is actually the one in Arizona. Just judging by the shapes and the fact that you can actually go to the one in Arizona and perhaps get some aerial photos of it, it would make a lot more sense that that's the one that's in the menu screen. But I do still believe that Nuketown takes place in Nevada, and that it's supposed to be right here on the Sedan crater, as it lines up almost perfectly with what's in game. There's even this little area here towards the north area of the Sedan crater that sort of dips on in, and it turns out that this exists as well inside of Nuketown Zombies. You can see it right where I'm looking right now. For our next comment, we have one here by Richard Head, who said in Cell Block Grief, I believe if you no-clip to the Juggernog spot of Mob of the Dead, you can buy Juggernog and actually have it in game. Well, if we head on over to Cell Block Grief here in Black Ops 2 and type in the command xpartygo, the game will start for us, even though it's only me in the lobby. And using a bit of no-clip, of course, we can take a look at the entirety of Mob of the Dead outside of the map. This specific comment is about Juggernog, so let's go ahead and fly on down there first, and when we do, we'll see that there is no Juggernog machine here. And in its place is simply the clip that was there before. We can see there's collision with an invisible machine, but the machine itself is not here. In fact, there are a lot of things missing, like every single door is just completely gone. The gondola is gone. And we can see that even the generators here in the power room are also gone. There's no doors here either, and the wall buy, although it's still here, does not function. We can't buy this NP5, unfortunately. And as it turns out, this is actually the case for all of the perks here on Mob of the Dead. For instance, down here in the tunnels, double tap is also completely gone, and up here by the roof, there is no Deadshot daiquiri. And some other really cool details is, for one, the checklist is apparently all finished. Here in Grief, I guess the Easter egg is already done somehow. And when you walk up to the platform that you build the plane, we can see missing active trigger text just pop up on our screen. And that's of course because Grief does not have access to the same stuff that Mob of the Dead does, in order to save on file size, I imagine. If you're interested in some more Grief-related content, you can take a look at this video when you want. It's an old dev tricks and secrets video that is focused just on Grief alone, and covers a whole bunch of stuff from these maps. For our next comment, we have one here by Oiwan Kolanobi, who asked what about the undiscovered Easter egg Jimmy Z was asked about in 2020. In the cabin, or the train car, the sign was a door, not a blocker. Apparently that's what he said. And I couldn't find this interview anywhere on the internet. I watched a bunch of them. I'm sure it's there, and I just completely missed it, but we're gonna take his word for it. Now, I'll be real, I doubt we're gonna find anything, but here's the cabin at least. There's most certainly no real signs going on here. I mean, there's the whole situation with these skulls just chilling here on the ground, which I imagine are supposed to be denizen skulls, but it definitely doesn't seem like there's anything really hidden here. Other than the Bowie knife wall buy, so perhaps we need that. I guess I'll grab that for now. But now if we go ahead and fly on down the road towards some of the train cars, let's explore what's going on here, I suppose. For one, it's important to note that every single one of these blue and yellow train cars are the exact same model. They have the same number 24 on them, and they also have the same exact interior. It doesn't seem like there's anything in any of them. There's 15 of them, and it looks like most of them are upright other than two, one that's over there on its side, as well as one over here that's on its side. And although it's nearly impossible to see when you have fog on, these train cars are simply just blocking you off from going outside of the map. The most interesting side, I suppose, being this one, which has the train track leading off into the distance and around the corner, just under some rocks over here. And if we follow it and continue on, we can see it just sort of ends off. But it is important to note that it does line up quite well with Nocturne and Toten, and it would have 100% led directly to, well, right about here. Essentially the backyard of the place. I doubt there's any significance with this, but I thought it was kind of cool, so I figured I'd point it out. But other than that, and the fact that there is this massive glowing light underneath this pylon, I'm not exactly sure what could be hidden out here. There doesn't seem to really be any signs here, unfortunately, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. But I will say there is one sign on TranZit that could be talked about as a door, I suppose, as it is kind of part of an Easter egg that has already been discovered long ago. And that is this billboard here that says sedan, and has this dude with a magnifying glass looking at a sedan. There's also some other words here, and I can't quite make them out. I can see that this says way of, but I have no idea what that says. And something, way of something? I got no idea. But I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be in reference to the Sedan Crater, or Nuketown Zombies. And perhaps this is that door that he's talking about, although I'm not entirely sure. But it is sort of the only thing that would make sense that I've found so far anyway. For our next comment here, we have one by GVSQ, who says the real lore is currently lost TranZit pre-alpha day and night footage. I wish someone had an archive somewhere, and man, do I as well, because that would be awesome. But this whole line of comments here got me thinking, and made me want to search it up a little bit. And it turns out that on November 22nd, 2022, some guy named Rylan posted a whole bunch of pre-alpha images, which are awesome to look at. First of all, we have the menu here, which looks a lot like Black Ops 1 Zombies, and that makes a lot of sense for a pre-alpha. Here we are looking at town, and the bus is coming from the wrong direction, which is interesting. But the general location of the buildings that we're looking at here are about the same. The barbershop at this point was a general store, it looks like, and the general store was a fruit store, I suppose. Although I guess it could kind of still be that in-game. And something that's also interesting in this picture, in the bottom left-hand corner, the door to the laundromat is open, which very well could be just something that's pre-alpha in nature, but it also sort of lines up with my theory that this was going to be playable space at one point, as there's full collision in here with all of the models, and it would line up perfectly with being able to walk on through this bowling alley and shoot some zombies. But what is perhaps the most interesting is this first one right here, which seems to be the early alpha layout of TranZit. And oh my god, is it quite a bit different. So the place that we normally spawn in TranZit, of course, is the bus station. And I suppose that's kind of still in the same place, although the label for bus station is a little bit lower. And the bridge as well is crossing over some water here instead of lava. And in fact, this entire area actually looks like it's not destroyed whatsoever. It very much so looks like a TranZit before those rockets hit the Earth. And it's really weird to see as well that it seems like that bridge wasn't going to be the route that the bus actually took. But continuing along, we still have that tunnel, which is nice, and diner location is still there, actually, and there is 2 buildings as well. One right here that I guess could pass as an early alpha version of the diner, and another one that, well, has a rooftop that looks almost identical to the one that is in the current version of TranZit. And the shape of the road continuing onward up through here is pretty much the same that it is in the actual version of TranZit. It goes on further towards Farm, which Farm is basically in the exact same location. Although, looking at the building structures here, it definitely was different back in this pre-alpha. The barn itself seems to have some other building here to the left of it, and the main farmhouse, well, it's kind of hard to tell if it's there or not, although this might be it. It just looks strange here on this map. But now, this is where things start to get pretty weird. Up next, we have the cornfields, which here look to be green instead of yellow. They're not destroyed, they're like ready for harvest, basically. But there is no big pylon here in the middle, there is no crop circle, and there is no Nuketown off to the right. And interestingly enough, the road here that goes around the cornfield is a loop itself. So it actually connected with another road on this side of the cornfield somewhere, that I suppose is completely gone now and replaced by yet another mountain. Although, there is one thing to point out, and right here might have been the place where the other road connected to this one, as there is just some dirt texture covering up what could have once been an intersection. And looking at this map, it would make a lot of sense that this is about the same area. But then again, that is kind of a stretch. There really is not evidence here that there was a road in TranZit, or at least ever created. And on the other side here, nothing lines up at all. And further onward, the power station is massive in this picture, and really makes me wonder how much of this was constructed and just, I guess, lost to the ether and never put into zombies. Because here in-game, the area looks absolutely nothing like it does on this map. We pretty much just have one singular building that's made of brick, and it is somewhat small, especially compared to anything that we see here. Perhaps that could be this building right here, and it does partially look destroyed perhaps in this map, although it might be a stretch. And we do have some of these tank structures that are sitting just outside the map, right over here by the train cars. But that is it. There is nothing else that is inside of this map present in game. And there was this massive cube structure, which looks crazy, dude, as well as a bunch of other buildings and some power plant stuff going on. It looks a lot more interesting than the power station that we actually got on TranZit. A little bit unfortunate, but still really cool to be able to see it now. And I got a feeling that that massive box there at the power station would have housed the Avogadro. This power room that we see here, the Broken Arrow facility, probably would have been inside of that, instead of here underground like it is in game. And last but not least, we have probably the coolest part of this, and that's town, which has a 4-way intersection and roads leading off in each direction. This, of course, being very different than what we have in the actual map TranZit. Currently, we only have one road leading from the power plant to town, and it, I suppose, is this one right here in the middle. There also is no cabin along the way here in the map, and of course in-game there is no second road here to the left. Instead, this street to the left here in town just goes straight towards the bridge and over the lava. And that would line up quite nicely with this map as well. It would make a lot of sense that that's how they changed it. And I'm sort of wondering if there's any remnants of this road that is just no longer here, and unfortunately, it really doesn't seem like that's the case. There's basically nothing underneath the texture of this mountain here. It definitely seems like if it did exist at one point, it is completely gone now. But there are some other hidden roads here on this map that we can find on TranZit. Specifically, this one right here in the front. If we look real close here, right by the church to the left, there is a texture outside of the map that is most certainly a road texture, and there's even a power line here just right next to it. We can compare this texture to some more road texture that wraps around the entire backside here of town. And towards the in-map section, we can see the developers sort of just covered this up with some dirt and put a tree here, blocking us off from ever being able to access what might have once been planned as playable space. It would have been absolutely awesome to have town expanded like this, to be able to actually go around all of these buildings, wrap back around towards this intersection, instead of simply just having what is just one block, basically, of buildings. It would feel a lot larger. And of course, lastly, being able to actually go down this road and have it go all the way through this mountain right here and line up perfectly with the pylon on the other side in this cornfield, that would have been sick too. And of course, that is exactly what we see here in this pre-alpha map. For our next comment here, we have one by Frederick Christensen, who said on the last comment section episode, "For a video on Black Ops 2 levels design, I'd like to see an actual side-by-side comparison of the zombie spawn rooms in the Pack-a-Punch area on TranZit/Town, and the zombie spawn rooms from the laboratories under 5. They definitely copied and pasted the general layout, and the canisters are even in the exact same spot. I actually believe the entire Pack-a-Punch area might have used the identical layout from a specific corridor on 5. And this man is definitely correct. When we come on down the stairs into the Pack-a-Punch area here on TranZit and then look to our left, we see a whole bunch of these little cages. And it turns out this is the exact area as this on 5. These cages are in the exact same place. So it seems to me that if we walk on down this hallway, take a left, this whole area is constructed exactly the same way as it is on 5. It is important to note, though, that this version of the hallway here on TranZit is much shorter than it is on 5. It seems like the developers just cut it off right here instead. Although it does still have some window locations that line up almost perfectly, and these two windows right here that are just shuttered closed line up exactly the same way they do with this area here on 5, the little gun test range room, if you will. Although when we walk on into here, it is important to note that this window location is not the same as the area is on 5. It's very much so different. We just have some canisters chilling around. The layout of the place is not the same. There is no gun range. There's no little wonder weapon rack. There's none of that going on here. And in fact, that window location we just checked out is pretty much identical to this one, at least in layout. The modeling is slightly different, but the overall structure of this area is the same. And there are two other window locations here, one of them being this little L-shaped window location right here that has zombies just spawn right around the corner. And this one is the exact same as it is on 5 as well. Down to the 3 little crates in the corner, all that has changed is the textures. And for the other one, we can say the same thing. It is also a window location from 5. This is the area that normally has part of a Der Riese teleporter in it. Right here is where the table would be that has the ray gun, and the only remnants that we have of that area here in TranZit is these two, I don't know, curtains on wheels, I guess? But other than that, there is nothing else from 5. Well, I suppose other than these two cabinets. And here is one last side-by-side comparison of the two of them. It's really cool to see this. It very much so is that window location. And then as for these other window locations that have the garage door in it, well, they were taken from the place that you enter the TranZit Pack-a-Punch room. As it turns out, this door here on 5 is this window location. Fit with the garage door in the back, some canisters that look different in Black Ops 1, but they're in the same place. And it does have the same little areas leading off to the right and left. Although there is this one here in TranZit that only has one of these. I guess the developers just decided to cut it off. It is absolutely crazy to see this. I never knew that this was the case, although I sort of kind of thought it would be. I mean, it looks a lot like 5. And with them both being American facilities, it makes a lot of sense. I absolutely love this. So, I'm gonna take a sip of the coffee. Because of course, I have my coffee with me here this morning, and I hope wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, you're enjoying yourself. Because discovering little secrets like this about the game is what I absolutely love to do here on this channel, and thank you all for doing it alongside me. Your comments have taught me an absolute ton about zombies. So many things that I would never have looked into, and it's thanks to all of you that I've gotten to. So keep putting them down there. I read every single one of them, and you might just be featured in the next episode of the comment section, so there's that too. And if you are enjoying this video as much as I am making it, then consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. But without further ado, let's continue. For our next comment, we have one by Straight Holmes, who said there is an unused map in Black Ops 1 under the name SO Narrative 6 Front End, which reuses the main menu room, except this map appears to be designed for testing in-game cutscenes from the campaign. The computer can also be used to cycle through Mason's animations, which does sound quite interesting. And this map also happens to exist on the PlayStation 3 version as well, but I'm not sure if the map exists on other platforms at all. Well, if we go ahead and type in dev map and then put in this SO Narrative 6 Front End and hit enter, we are able to load this hidden map. There's a very strange loading screen that literally just has a counter in the bottom right-hand corner. Not exactly sure what that's for, I guess some dev testing purposes. But if we press enter, we get to see something very strange. And I'm just gonna let it play for a bit because I think it's really cool, so here it is.
You confirmed that Dragovich's second-in-command, Kravchenko, was operating in Laos. Listen to me carefully, Mason. Reznov cannot be trusted. No matter what he tells you, no matter what he says.
It seems that this is a duplicate, unfinished copy of the same narrative sequence that happens just before this mission in Laos. The one where you spawn here next to some helicopter pads and then go take a boat down the river. And just for comparison's sake, I'll play that one now. The words that Hudson are saying are exactly the same as they are in the normal version that you hear in the Black Ops 1 campaign.
You confirmed that Dragovich's second-in-command, Kravchenko, was operating in Laos.
That Reznov said they killed more people than I could count.
Listen to me carefully, Mason. Reznov cannot be trusted. No matter what he tells you, no matter what he says.
But he gave us the dossier on Clark. He led us to Nova 6.
Reznov's not who you think he is.
No, he's my friend. He helped me escape. Oh, God, betrayed. Forgotten, abandoned, all brothers, huh?
Forget Reznov! Focus, Mason! We're out of fucking time! The world is on the fucking brink of war!
Whose war? Who the fuck are you anyway? Huh? God, I just keep hearing the fucking numbers.
It's a broadcast, Mason. The numbers are a broadcast. You've been brainwashed.
So it seems that this unused sequence is the exact same as the one that's used in the campaign. It's just that here in this version, Hudson actually has his textures, and the sequence keeps playing in a loop, with Mason not saying anything at all back to him. And he's also labeled with Private Thompson. This, as far as I can tell, is simply just a randomized name, like you would have for one of the NPCs in the campaign. All of the screens are playing images of Mason, and that Mason being the one that is directly underneath, and is labeled with Private Llama. Again, another randomized name. This function that's going on here with the duplicate Mason underneath the room is what happens for each one of these narrative scenes. This is exactly how they function. And that, of course, is because normally the Mason that's in this chair is the one that you're in a first-person point of view from. And because of this, they remove his head. So in order to be able to use the mocap of Mason talking, they need to have a duplicate version of him down here. And this is essentially what is just being recorded and fed to each one of these TV screens. When we go on up to the terminal here as well, it does have a little World at War interaction symbol, which is really cool on its own, but when we press interact with it, it seems to change through a bunch of different animations. We can see in the top left-hand corner, Flashpoint chair animation, river animation, rebirth animation, Cuba animation, and if we turn around and look at the TVs as I'm doing this, it is actually changing the animation as well. We're quite literally cycling through these mocaps of Mason, and that is super cool to see. Some of these, I imagine, are actually used in-game, at least part of them perhaps, for the other narrative scenes that are inside of this room. I'm not exactly sure why something like this would be needed in-game. Perhaps it's not, and it's just left over from development. Maybe they were going to use it and never did. Or perhaps it is quite literally just used for testing. But either way, it is really cool. If we take a look into the game files underneath the common directory, we find a whole bunch of FF files. And we can see these SO narrative front-end files right here. The one that we just loaded, of course, being this narrative 6 one. This does indeed mean that there are 6 of these, so we can cycle through each one of them. All of the other ones are ones that are actually used in the campaign. Like this one, if we load it up, it simply just starts playing just as it would if you were playing the campaign normally. There's a headless Mason inside of the chair, and underneath the ground, we have the Mason with a head. The one that's playing on the TV screens just above us. And finally, after it finishes playing through its sequence, it will actually load the next mission, just as it normally does. This one that we're watching being the one that plays right before the mission for Rebirth Island, where you go in and kill Steiner.
We are here. Rebirth Island. Source of Dragovich's poison.
And while we're here in the Black Ops 1 main menu, there is one other comment I'd like to cover, and that's one here by Seb1241, who asked what happens if you die in the Black Ops 1 main menu screen, and can you somehow spawn in guns? Two things that I have not tried before, so let's go ahead and try them now. If we just go ahead and break out of our chair real quick, stand on up, we could start to enter some commands here. For one, we'll try the give command, which normally will be able to give you some guns. We'll try the M14, for instance, and we might as well just try the M14_ZM, the zombies version. Doesn't seem like either of those work. It could be possible that the single-player version would work? No, still no gun. It also could be possible that maybe the M14 just doesn't work, so let's try the 1911, both the zombie version and the single-player version. Neither of them seem to work. I don't know if there is a multiplayer version. I also don't know even if there's a single-player version, to be honest with you. But we're just going to try all of these commands, and it seems like none of them are doing anything. But what we can do is we can enter the kill command, which, well, it'll kill us. And what happens when we do that? We go to a black screen, and we see that same timer in the bottom right-hand corner, just counting up, but nothing is happening, really. I'm gonna wait for just a second and see if it actually loads anything. I got a feeling it won't, but it might. Oh, okay, after 40 seconds, the timer has gone away. We're now staring at a black screen. My cursor's in the middle, but I can't move it. I think the game crashed, fellas. Damn, so I guess the game doesn't know how to reload the main menu after that. Although, wait, it actually hasn't crashed, because I can press tilde still. I can open up the console, and if I just type in dev map front end, can I load it myself? Nope, no, that crashed the game. That actually did crash the game. Attempting to override asset SPL frontend.english from zone end frontend with zone end_frontend. Apparently, that's not an okay thing to do. Well, there you go, Seb. I guess you got your answer. But that is it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. I really love doing these comment section episodes. It allows me to explore things in game that wouldn't really make sense for an entire video on their own, and it also allows me to incorporate you guys into my content, and that is something that is really special. So like I said before, continue leaving those comments down below, and if you did enjoy this video and you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on your screen right now. But if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.